Oh my god. I was just watching some content around, psychology and whatever. And there was this video which said that we all have like an inflated persona, which is basically a mask that we wear to, be socially acceptable. So, for example, we have a mask for our workplace, a different mask for our family, different mask for our friends, and whatnot. And it's fine if we wear that, that's not a problem. The problem begins when we start confusing that mask for our reality. At a certain point, that mask becomes who we are. We internalize it so bad that suddenly, instead of acting inside out, we start acting outside in, which is basically the environment around us starts dictating how we feel and how we act, etc., etc. And then within the video, it also said that there's this ideal persona in our head that we feel that we need to be when we're performing, and we start living for that performance, we start living for that applause for that performance. We start believing that there's this ideal persona that we should have, which will then fix everything, which will then make my life the best. The problem is, when you do that, you start repressing parts of you that are socially unacceptable, like fear or hatred or greed or sadness even, so you start pushing all of that into your unconscious. So I just paused the video and I started to think about how I became this people pleaser, how I became this person who not only started putting on a mask, but also not suddenly, eventually started believing that this is who she is now. The mask is who I am. I've lost my sense of self. And then I realized that as a kid, I saw my dad do this performance for others where he was like always, his entire action process was determined by what the society would think. समाज क्या कहेगा, समाज के लोग क्या कहेंगे, रिश्तेदार क्या कहेंगे, all of that. So my dad always did that. And I used to be so mad about it as a child. I was like, why are you, that's so stupid. Why would you care about what other people think? Because at that time, I realized I didn't care about what people thought about me. Like, I was in school, I was a weirdo. I used to come from a village to a city school and, study alongside city kids that had cable in their home, and that they could have like shared experiences and conversations around that. But I was not that. I didn't care. I was a weirdo. I used to carry like a trolley bag as a school bag for a year or so. I didn't care. People laughed at me because I was a nerd. I didn't care. I used to oil my hair and do this tight ponytail, and the oil used to seep down to my nose, and my nose started shining in the sun when I stood in the assembly ground, and people made fun of that, and I didn't care. I hated boys, and boys hated me more, of course. So they used to do some wild shit and they used to make fun of me behind my back. I didn't care. I never cared. So then what exactly happened? Like, why did I start caring about everything so much? Now I feel like I'm living my entire life for the society. Like, I want to make sure that I don't hurt anybody, I don't offend anybody, and all of that. So what exactly happened? And then I realized that this was a gradual process. So it started when I was in school, I think in around 9th standard. When I was a teenager, I had freshly become a teenager, and then I kind of fell in love with a guy. It was a one-sided thing, so he never liked me back, but I was like, drooling over him from a distance. And then I found out that he liked some other girl in my class, and that girl was like really cool. She was cool. She was not good at studies, but she was like cool. I don't know how to explain it. She was the popular girl in our class, and so I found out that he actually liked her. And so I was like, oh, why doesn't he like me? If he has the capacity to like right now, why doesn't he like me? And then that was the first time I realized that you have to be a certain way. Like, you have to be cool, you have to be popular, in order to be liked by the person that you like. And so after 10th, I actually changed schools, and I went to another school in 11th and 12th, which was also a hostel, by the way, a co-ed school. And there I thought, this is a fresh start. I can just pretend to be somebody else. I can pretend to be like this really cool person, I can pretend to be the girl that my crush liked, and then maybe somebody like my crush would like me here. The whole teenage thought process. And so I started becoming that. That was the first time I put on a mask in my life. That was the first time I performed in my life. And I remember I now remember and I now realize that there were some instances where myself actually rebelled against that, and like the weird part of me, the wacky part of me tried to come back, tried to make a comeback, but I suppressed it again. I was like, no, you can't come out because you are not liked, you are not loved. And so I suppressed that part. And then the performance worked. I was the cool girl. I became the school captain. I was extremely popular amongst the entire school and whatever. But I became the school captain because of my merit, because I was actually good in my studies. I became popular because I was performing. So that was because of performance. And I of course, I didn't realize that back then, but I realized that now, that I was putting on a performance. Like, that was in 11th standard. That was the first time I put on a performance for the external world. Of course, I did it for my family and all before, but for the external world, the people that I never cared about, that's when I started caring about people. And after that, because I got applauded for the performance I gave in my 11th and 12th standard, I was like, yeah, I guess I have to be this now. I have to live up to the image, the persona that I've created. And so I continued with it. And I kept getting applause for it, by the way. So even in college, I was applauded for the performance I was giving of the school popular girl. And then even after college, when I, got into my internship and my first job and whatever, I was again with the same mindset that, oh, this performance is working for me. It's working in my favor. So I should not stop giving it. And that's the last I remember of me actually realizing that I'm giving a performance, because after that I think I just accepted it as my reality. This is the realization I've had at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 minutes before I need to leave for office. Have a good day.